stop blaming Black or minority culture on your and your community's poverty, problems, or whatever circumstance that you face every single day. Because once you shift the blame to another entity, industry, or powers that be, you have essentially surrendered yourself to the constant war that we face every single day. Every day we have to get up. It's a hustle just to ensure that we can provide for our loved ones and everyone that our true and living Father has assigned for us to serve. But if you are facing difficulty in fulfilling that will, you must ensure that you take 100% accountability for everything that happens to you. And that stands completely against you saying, because the rappers that are constantly propagating negative stereotypes of our community, that's the reason why I'm down. That's the reason why my kids cannot get ahead. Absolutely false. First off, the entire structure that you see as Black or minority culture does not come from these rappers. That's why pick up my new book. It's called The Art of Breaks. It is new, but I actually wrote it while I was in college. It gives you a snapshot of the environment that actually shaped what you see as Black and minority culture in this day and age. One of the most recent roots by that time, the broken windows policy in New York City, launched by Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, was actually cleaning things up. And it was a toned down version of what you got in the late 80s and early 90s. And all of these rappers that you see performing with filthier lyrics than what you hear now, they were simply reporting what they were encountering on a day-to-day basis, serving crackheads hand to hand and ensuring that they were surviving by defending themselves, keeping 380s, 9mm, Berettas, whatever type of weapon that they can hold behind radiators to go ahead and defend themselves. I grew up with all these people, assassins, stick-up kids, and because they were reporting exactly or authentically, the ones that got good and built a platform, they assimilated with the people that became their fans and started to buy their music through the mixtapes, through the albums that they were dropping. I'm going to let you in a little secret. People are talking about don't support hip hop because it promotes negative stereotypes of the Black and minority community. I am a technical hip hop head, hardcore purist. I school myself. And if you don't know it, you gotta pick up the ebook. And I've got a glossary where you can go ahead and find out most of these terms that I use on this channel and in the language in the book, some of the best writing that I've ever produced. And it's worth potentially tens of thousands to millions of dollars because through that, I got my scholarship into New York University. You see the embodiment of the energy that I use to choose every single word as carefully as possible to picture exactly what it was like back in 96 when it wasn't as hardcore. But bit.ly/artnyc. The link is in the video description below. Take a look. Run DMC. You've heard of them. My Adidas. They got their style from a gang called the Supreme Team. Jamaica, Queens, New York, same place from which I originate. That's where you see what constitutes what Black culture. And this is the pioneers of hip hop, their mannerisms, the way that they spoke. They were imitating what they saw in the streets from ballers, people that were slinging crack on a daily day basis, death to your very own people. Now, you get deeper into that. Where was that crack coming from? It's coming from Pablo Escobar. It's coming from Colombia, from where my family originates. And that's where you see absolute poverty. You see children picking food off the street. I've seen poverty here. For instance, when I was coming up on Fulton Street, I used to see sometimes babies in playpens on a corner, right underneath the elevated train. Once the train passes by, you see all kinds of stuff, liquids, and who knows what that stuff is made of. Perhaps acid, I don't even know. Sparks from the grinding of the wheels with the tracks, and it's falling all onto the street. And you had babies in playpens, dusty playpens, people leaving them out. I knew parents that used to give kids NyQuil to put them to sleep. All right, completely different, grimy. I'm not the type of person that's going to say, oh, back in my day, everything was more decent. It was worse. It was worse. The lyrics were filthy, and these dudes, more of them at least, were doing what they were writing about. And we influenced them. That's why when I approached a rapper or I bumped heads with some, I rubbed shoulders with some. I opened in Lyricist Lounge showcase where Q-Tip from the Tribe Called Quest, he was announcing us, and we were rhyming there. We rhymed with Rod Digger, who's a Flip Mode squad led by Busta Rhymes, you may know. We rolled with Large Professor, Lord Finesse. Large Professor, he helped discover Nas, and I used to listen to these people, not to get influenced. Like, I can't say I was successful because I imitated what they did. I'm like, if I hear them talking about serving a fiend, I went and served the fiend, and as a result, I was successful. No, none of that works. You have to take a broad look at how this entire planet works. I tell my kids, for instance, my kid likes watching Breaking Bad, and we make that a regular practice to watch it together because I tell him exactly based off my experience what's real, what's not, what kind of experiences you draw. And he's also been inspired to become a lawyer as a result because he likes the character Saul Goodman. So I'm like, cool, let's ride with it. But he also states that based off of everything that he's seen in that show, he will never touch the drug game. And it makes no sense to do so because all that money is false. It didn't work for Pablo Escobar, who is probably the richest person known to this modern era. Arguably, there's other people, but they don't even know how much money this person had. They still are discovering artifacts, gold toilets, and all this other stuff. Money all over the place that this man generated. They had to take governments to go ahead and take him out. The United States had to support the Colombian government to go and take this person out. And it did not work for him. He got bodied. You saw the results. It's not going to work for you if you're trying to even cop a couple of keys and break it down into 125s or whatever it is you want to do. It's not going to work for you. Trust me, you are going up against the most formidable superpower ever known to man, the United States government. And once you do that, it's 99.99999% chance you lose unless you become Russia or you start to partner with another superpower and then you're able to do it along that level. But most of the people that are watching this, you're not at that particular level. I've told you time and time again, take full control over mastering exactly what it is that you have to do, which is develop marketable, monetizable skills. That is the true problem in the Black community. That is the true problem among people that are, quote, underserved. We have every single resource available to us now. As I told you before, my secret with hip hop is not that I took influences from them to act like them, to be a knucklehead, and put myself in a position where I was successful as a result. I used to rhyme. And as I told you, I rhyme with people that were in the mainstream. Lyricist Lounge, Biggie went through Lyricist Lounge. A number of artists can say that they can attribute some part of their success to performing at Lyricist Lounge. I used to do open mics on a weekly basis. Rapping is a hard act. You have to be able to take every single line and make it rhyme with another line and take the words within the rhyme also rhyme. And at the same time, you got to make everything make sense. And it has to be funny or it has to inspire people to give you that in the cipher so you can keep it rolling. You have to be able to do that. Sometimes when you are freestyling or performing extemporaneously, you have to do that within seconds. You've got rhymes coming and conjured in your brain, and you have to vocalize and propel them within the cipher on a beat to a particular rhythm. It is hard. And I had gotten to the point where I was freestyling publicly on a regular basis. I always got compliments. I didn't put my all into it, which is why I started to pursue like credit repair and I started to get into business. I wanted to do other things. I was like, listen, I'm not going to be the type of person that I'm going to be threatening people over records. That was like the major thing. It was a West Coast versus East Coast thing. If I'm going to get you, you're not even going to hear me coming. Understand what I'm saying? Never brag how real I keep it. Now, I used to listen to Rakim, Cool G Rap, Nas on a regular basis, nonstop. And I wasn't the type of dude to buy records. I probably spent, because I used to be a DJ, no more than $150 in records. I'm not the type of dude that was regularly buying records on a daily, like I would never stand on a line outside of a record store to have an artist sign. When I bumped heads with a Rama, I just gave him that. Understand? He was cool, he's cool. If not, he got. And I basically encountered them like contemporaries because I know what shapes their culture. I know that we're the ones that give them the material that they use to have people gravitate to their work and make them who they are. And I even see them now and I'm like, bang, dude, homeboy did his thing, but he came from among us. I do not let that influence me. Now, as I was saying before, it's very hard to put a rhyme together. That said, once I went into college, being that I was already accustomed to rhyming on a regular basis, it all became a piece of cake. One of the core foundational skills that you have to be able to wield in college is the ability to write. So once I removed those barriers, that box in which you must enclose yourself to be able to rhyme, which is to ensure that everything rhymes and it has to make sense and has to be in a certain structure, now I'm free to write. And I was doing it. I didn't have any keyboard. I don't want to use computers or a typewriter at that time. I did it when I would submit papers. I got a computer once and I didn't write the paper. Excuse me, I didn't turn on the computer until I had to write the paper the very same day because that was the deadline. But I was writing like crazy. I was just writing on composition books, documenting everything. And you're going to see it's some of the best writing that I've ever wrote. You're going to see I was painting a picture of everything that I'm going through on a daily basis. It was as if they unleashed an unstoppable force and I was able to write without needing to rhyme. So I was a lot more freer in terms of what I can say, how I could use my words, how I can make one fit here and the other fit in another place to ensure that I produced the work. And I always got complimented for my work, as I said, because of my writing. Got a scholarship at the NYU. I've written for Forbes magazine. I've written for the Huffington Post. At first, I wasn't getting any work as a writer. Nonetheless, once I started to learn internet marketing, in other words, how to sell something, then I got to a position where I can post and publish my work on these mainstream organizations' platforms. And you have the same ability, but you have to ignore everything that's going on, all of this madness, scantily dressed women, dudes with tattoos all over the place, and letting that influence you, or even vocalizing the opinion that because of them, our community is down, that we have to stop. You got vloggers on a regular basis telling people, stop supporting hip hop. Listen, it has nothing to do what they say that will influence you to do something out of pocket. If you're seeing rappers tatted up all over the place with dreads or whatever the case, but that's not your MO, why follow suit? Do whatever will put you in the best position to succeed based off what you are executing. That's what you need to do. So if you want to be a business person, go ahead and see how business people succeed. I've dropped jewels on this channel time and time again, how to scrape thousands of leads, how to market your business, how to ensure that you sell something, how to find topics that you could post on social media so you put yourself in front of people that are actually seeking your services. Most people ignore it. Yet, some of the same people may be of the camp that is blaming hip hop. Oh, because they keep on talking about drug dealing and slinging and doing drugs. That's the reason I can't get over. That's the reason our community suffers. No, no, no. Take 100, I'll keep saying it, 100% responsibility for everything that you are encountering. And you keep doing that on a regular basis. And you will empower yourself immediately to say, I got to get mine. And you'll start to conjure all kinds of new ways and formulate strategies to be able to sell what it is you have to offer. Just like the widow, she had the oil. What is your oil? How will you put it in a package that will flip because you are actually delivering value to somebody? So, for instance, that's my oil. Once you see the snapshot of the world in which I came up, and I also have a prologue with all kinds of data that's telling you exactly, anecdotally, what I went through, how the social economic environment actually shaped what we define as Black culture. It's not as simple as saying these people are acting out of pocket. No, 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 no. They are inheriting what they saw. Now, you see these people getting money, they may have a complete act where they are performing, but it's just an act. They're just actors. Many of them, most of them, they didn't even go through or not taking drugs or doing the things. They got like families and stuff and talking about they're treating people, they're treating women, denigrating them, calling them bees, etc. They're not doing that on a regular basis. They have an act to perform before their recording studios. Just like who's talking about Black people want to become corrupt cops because they see Denzel Washington on Training Day? Absolutely ridiculous. He is acting. He is performing. That's what you have to understand. These are simply performances. Everything that you see from the concert that you attended at a stadium and the Instagram posts, it is all an act. So why do you want to shift the blame? Why do you even want to vocalize it? Because you have to remember, words shall become flesh. And if you let those words occupy and circulate within this skull right here, it starts to define exactly what you do. You get into the practice of shifting blame to other entities, people, industries, or whatever because of your lack of funds, lack of opportunity, resources, whatever it is. Listen, you are in the most powerful country potentially ever known to man, a super duper power, greatest democratic experiment, right? Which is simply a mask for capitalism. There are no rules. Just operate legitimately. Listen, you got doctors that regularly listen to hip hop artists and they start to break down the experience that these people encountered and how that can empower your community. Right now, Harvard had dropped a fellowship, a Nas fellowship, and they're studying his work because art, at the end of the day, that's all it is. You're going to let yourself get influenced. Look at all the violence and all the craziness you potentially watch on Netflix. Are people blaming Kevin Hart? Are people blaming Al Pacino for dropping Scarface? And a number of people were influenced. Matter of fact, in the minority community, like, yo, I want to be like Scarface. I want to be Tony Montana. And you got that. But the environment had more of an instrumental part in ensuring. I mean, even people that were operating like Tony Montana, if you take a look at the lady who used to supply Escobar, she came into the country much like Tony Montana. They eventually bodied her and took her out. Another example of how this drug game or you taking tips from people that are ultimately going to fail is basically that's the same. That's the real Tony Montana, this lady right here. I forgot her name, Griselda, if I'm not mistaken. She's also Colombian. Right now, we're face to face. Anyway, she came into Florida. She also had a drug empire, got chased, and then they killed her. I think they killed a couple of her sons as well. It goes absolutely nowhere. Now, there may be a cycle where you get people in the mainstream that they report what they're going through and they reinforce that behavior once they communicate because they have these platforms. You have to understand they have the platforms because we've created the environment from which they have reported everything that they propel out into the planet. So collectively, we are at fault. Blame yourself 100%. Now, you don't have to stop supporting. If you like hip hop, go ahead, support it. I mean, if that's your thing, do it. Just don't let yourself get influenced. Everything has two sides. Understand? Whenever you see the moon and it's full, you see the light side, and on the other side, it's completely dark because that's the part that you're seeing that the sun is illuminating. You're seeing a reflection of the sun's light. The other side is completely dark. Everything else, when you see a problem before you, problem is facing you right here. If you simply turn that problem around, now you're taking a look at the solution. Everything has two sides to it. So you simply have to take 100% responsibility and say, listen, I'm just not seeing the solution. I'm not choosing to see it. I'm letting other people take control over my future. Become a master of your destiny. Learn everything that you have to do to become monetizable. So you're able to put yourself in a position where you can do everything that you must. But if you're just doing it based off of my instinct, what I feel in my gut, then you are taking all of the work that mankind has documented and innovated and produced and put out for the world to see, especially now because you have the internet right now. Super materialistic. That's probably gotten worse over the years, but it was still prevalent to a certain extent back in the 80s, back in the 90s. I mean, trailing back to the 50s, you see where status symbols among Black professionals, minorities, were how much material possessions they can accumulate. More than any other race. That was like, because they never had anything, now adopting the slave mentality still, but with a little more education in one particular discipline, but less education in another type of discipline. You want to be better or more notorious because of the possessions you had, the type of car that you're driving, the type of clothes that you're wearing, and you're buying Italian stuff. While potentially Italians, I mean, they're laughing at you. They're like, these dudes are spending all this money on our clothes, and you can get a lot cheaper when you go to Europe. So they're spending all this money and they manufacture the value of this stuff. If you look at Christian Dior, for instance, number of people, oh, I got a Christian Dior bag, $3,500. It costs like $60 to make. Understand? They simply apply the method of scarcity. So they are manufacturing the perception that there is scarcity among this stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Louis Vuitton. They burn their bags. So they don't get out into the open market and people resell them and devalue the amount of money that they're worth. When in actuality, who knows how much it costs? 20 bones or whatever. You can make an iPhone for roughly $200, $300 with scraps that you find in yards in China. I've seen it happen. And they're selling these things for what? $1,200. You can make it better than the technology you got right now. And they're flipping them for $1,200. Now they got credit. So listen, it's not only about that. Now you want to get deeper, take a look at removing the backing of the dollar from gold and all the policies that led to all of this hyperinflation, where companies are able to charge whatever it is that they want to bill for their services, for their products, because of the amount of readily available credit to which people have access. It's all over the place. So if one person says, listen, I'm not paying $1,200, $1,500 for this iPhone, they don't care because they've got millions of people in lines, virtual lines, of course, in 2024 that are willing to swipe the card to take that deal. I got it for the 16. Now I got caught up because I had a 13. It started failing. It started freezing. So now I'm trapped in this cycle where I've got these phones with a 2 to 3 year lifespan, according to the gentleman who worked at Verizon, and he told me so. So I'm going to have to keep upgrading. It is what it is. Cost of doing business. We continue to operate. We continue to move forward. I don't blame anyone but myself for putting myself in that situation, and I have to come out of my pockets. That's why you have to consistently produce and deliver value to the marketplace. That's what it's all about. Multiplying every single resource to which you have access. God has given you all of the resources available for you to do what you must do. What you now have to follow and comply with is Matthew 25, if I'm not mistaken, the talents. Take those talents and make them multiply. You simply save them and let them deteriorate with inflation. I mean, with inflation, your money goes. You have to learn. Exactly. You have to develop those skills. What monetizable, marketable skills can I adopt on a regular basis? If you're not learning how to tactically go out and deliver value to a marketplace on a regular basis, how do you expect your situation to change, especially if you're blaming and complaining? These are weaker traits that keep you subdued and make you subject to these influences because repetitively people are constantly occupying your mind. Now, you may talk about children, how children get influenced by, quote, Black and minority culture. Stop enabling them to be able to get influenced if there are children in your home. You have to remember this. If you are not 24/7 in your children's ear and telling them exactly what they need to have circulate in their brain, like I had my kids, they draft a comic book stand when they wanted to get some paper. They made some money real fast one night. They were like, listen, we're going to sell some comic books. They came back with like 30 bones. They also had an eBay store, made a couple of $100. Not ultra successful. Nonetheless, they have these principles. And once they start to put into practice the act of actually launching an entrepreneurial endeavor, now they have these tactics that they go ahead and employ that they have with them for years in their cortex, in their mind, in their reflexes, which increases the chance that they succeed. Like me, I was selling 3 pushes of the reset button on my Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1996 or no, excuse me, 1987, and no one had a Nintendo Entertainment System. The kids started complaining, and they made my or actually they convinced my mother to make me stop because she was like, stop charging the kids, let them play with the Nintendo, whatever. I had already beat Super Mario Brothers, had the calluses on my thumbs to prove it. And they were like, let them play. So I had to let them play, and the business got shut down. Nonetheless, I take that experience and it helps me today because I'm always out there flipping. I'm always trying to deliver value to a marketplace. How can I resolve somebody's problems? I was resolving those kids' problems because they were spending a quarter at the arcade and they were only getting 3 lives. I was getting them 3 pushes of the reset button. That means they can go through their 3 lives and then hit the reset button once, go through 3 more lives, again, 9 lives. They're getting a lot more value by using my NES system back in 87 than in the arcade and only getting 3 lives. So if you don't have those skills, adopt them. And if you take nothing else from this video, simply adopt the mindset and philosophy. Always have these words streaming across your brain. Also, pick up the ebook. I'll go ahead and drop the link in the video description below. Take 100% responsibility and accountability for every single circumstance that you face